It's important to try and take a moment and see what you can do in terms of giving back. For me personally, I've been so fortunate to get to where I am in my career. And if you're lucky enough to have those opportunities, then why would you not give the opportunity to someone else? I heard someone once say, if you have the opportunity to get to the penthouse, don't forget to send the lift back down. And it's about creating pathways. Once you've broken the mold or got to wherever it is you get to and achieve, being able to help and give someone a hand up is one of the greatest feelings that you could ever have. Since I've been in this industry, my dad and I were the only people of color along the journey, particularly through karting. Obviously, once I got into the actual sport, there are a few, very, very few people of color that I've come across on the journey. And when I used to come to the office and to the factory, I would ask my boss, I'd be like, how is it that out of 2,000 people, how am I one of the very few people of color? And you walk into an office and into a meeting and you are the only person of color and you wonder, are other people of color not interested in engineering? Do they just not know? I had also seen these images of the teams, which are done every year. There's 10 teams. And I zoomed into these pictures of these teams, which is around 100 people per team. And I noticed a lack of representation in these images. And I was like, I've got to do something about it. And so I went down this road of trying to understand what that is. I've always wondered, why was I given this opportunity? Why am I the only one that was able to fall through the crack and get into this industry? And not only that, be at the front. There must be a reason, not just to win championships.
The first and only black driver in Formula One history, Lewis Hamilton, has formed a commission to address the lack of diversity in UK motorsport on the track and throughout the industry.
An idea we came up with at the end of 2019 was the Hamilton Commission, in collaboration with the Royal Academy of Engineering in London. And we went through this process of data analysis and surveys to understand what the barriers are for young black students, youngsters trying to get into engineering. It's been an amazing journey. I've had this commission. Some people were from on the ground in black communities, some are in education, some are in government. And it was an educational process for all of us. The final outcome was to be able to bring it to the sport, to the industry, and present them what these are the issues, these are the findings. And it wasn't just within our industry. Some of it was through systemic issues throughout the educational system here in the UK. And then we have 10 recommendations. And naturally, we could have had 40, 50 recommendations, but we had to be very, very focused. So we narrowed it down to 10. And these recommendations we are going to be actioning. And alongside the Formula One, with the FIA, with the teams. Also on the side, me and my team are working together to make change within our own team with the hope of encouraging others to follow in our footsteps. But the ultimate goal is to make it more diverse, create a better pipeline for young people from black backgrounds to get into engineering and STEM subjects. One of the recommendations that really hit home for me is to do with expulsion rates. So young black Afro-Caribbean kids are 2.5 times more likely to be expelled between year 9 and year 11 of school. I was expelled when I was 15. And I remember the impact that had on me of walking home in disbelief. I remember every single word the headmaster said to me, and he really had it out for me. And I remember questioning whether I would go home. I couldn't face my parents. And there were so many different roads that I could have taken. I'm so grateful that I did go home. And I spoke to my parents, and fortunately, they were really supportive. But I thought my career was over. I thought my sponsorship with McLaren, which was my lifeline to reach my dream, was going to end. My expulsion when I was a kid, there was a group of kids that ran into a bathroom and ultimately beat this kid up. It was supposed to be birthday beats or birthday little digs, but these kids took it quite far. And there was a large group of people that went in, maybe 30 kids. I was the last one in and the first one out. So I didn't really see much, but it was all recorded. It was on a camera, at least of everyone going in. 6 kids got expelled, the 6 kids that actually did it. And 2 weeks later, I got a call, pulled out of class from my headmaster. It was nothing new to me because I was always in the headmaster's office. He would always be on to me about something, taking time off to go racing. He says, I finally have enough evidence to get rid of you. You're expelled. And as I said, I couldn't answer. I was a 15-year-old just trying to be polite. And again, I thought my life was over. The knock-on effect of that is my dad then worked to analyze what the evidence that he had, and he manipulated some of the reports that were written on those other 6 kids, changed the name from the other LH was another kid had the LH initials, and changed it to mine. And we went to this kind of court hearing, and the board that were reviewing it says, well, you don't have any reports on this kid. This is false, as false expulsion. And they reinstated me, but we didn't go back because the system had really failed me and us as a family. So the important part of this story is that the system continuously fails young people, and particularly young Black people. So that's why this Hamilton Commission is so important, and what we do with it in terms of tackling some of those recommendations, particularly the expulsion rate, where kids are at risk and being derailed from a potentially great future. We are now on this mission, and I'm on this mission with the sport, because we have to do it together, to go on this journey of discovering, or we have discovered what some of the barriers are for young people of color, to particularly young Black people getting into the industry, into STEM subjects. Now we can really be laser focused on making those changes. That's probably the thing that I'm most proud of. I've won all these championships, but actually changing people's lives and giving people opportunity and encouraging people to get into STEM subjects is an amazing feeling. Now we're just at the beginning of this new journey of something that's far greater than them and far bigger than just me. But it's going to take all of us coming together to make this change. The podium is a ceremony at the end of a race to celebrate the top 3 finishers of the race and the winning team. So whoever's on first, a team member gets to come up. It circulates, it comes from the boss, I think has been up there with me, and then to mechanics, engineers, they all get a chance at some point, as long as you're winning. And we've had a lot of amazing success together, so there's been a real mixture. But last year, I think it was the first or second race that I won. This was obviously during, in 2020, during pandemic. This was after everything had happened with George Floyd and the movement, the Black Lives Matter movement, and I'd been on the march in London with such a diverse group of people. And one of the very few people of color that was in my team at the time, Stephanie, she works in a lab at the track that's focused up with Petronas, working on making sure that our lubricants are operating at optimum levels. And she was the first female of color to be on the podium in the history of the sport in 70 years. And so it was a really magical moment for me to be able to share that space with her. Also, it's the first time I've been up there with anybody else of color, and that was and also just the message that it sent. It was amazing that the team gave her the opportunity to be up there, because in general is a male-dominated sport, and there's a massive underrepresentation of women, and particularly women of color. So it was great to see, and the response after that, young girls were watching who perhaps didn't think it was possible for a young female or a young woman of color to be up there. That was an amazing moment, shining a light and encouraging them that they can do that. This part of the story definitely is probably I think, the most important part of my journey in asking the questions always, why am I one of the very few people, if not the only, particularly only driver, but one of the very, very few people of color here, and never really having the answer back to what the real reasons were. And then seeing Stephanie join, and at one point someone said, "Oh, see, diversity." And I was like, you're kind of getting it, but there's still a long way to go. I definitely believe we've made progress, but there is still a long, long way to go. And it starts with education, educating ourselves. Each and every single one of us have to hold ourselves accountable. We have to encourage those around us to also educate themselves. The information's there and the learning is there. But it's not for one individual person to make all the changes. We have to come together. It's a time where we really need to unite more than ever. In a time where there are things that do try to divide us, right? Whether it's social media platforms, we've got to start really leaning on in the industry, leaning on companies to really start to push for change within their own infrastructure, making it more diverse and inclusive. And that's really what I'm trying to do within my industry. What you can do, I truly believe, is that you can ask questions. The uncomfortable questions are what are needed right now. When people, for example, when families or kids are watching, when I'm in these races, taking the knee, I know that it'll be sparking conversation. What are they taking the knee for? What does Black Lives Matter mean? And so whatever you're feeling within your workspace, I don't believe that you have to feel uncomfortable. If there's something that you are concerned about, if you feel that it is not a diverse enough workforce, ask those questions and spark the conversation. And it's about taking those people on a journey. And that's what I've discovered through my experience. It's about bringing the whole industry, bringing my boss and all the people within my team on the journey of being more inclusive, because a more diverse and more inclusive society and workspace is better for all of us when you're getting different points of views from different people from different backgrounds.